How are you, Kara?
I'm doing well.
Awesome. It's so exciting to be here in Miami with brand Innovators. As you know, I'm Deanna Marzillo with RhythmInfluence, and you're Kara.
Yep, Kara's Sellentine. I'm with Lotus Cars America.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Since last year, right?
Yeah, so I've spent my career in automotive, and then last year I joined the Lotus team, and it's been fantastic. I wanted to keep my career in luxury automotive and or motorsports. So
okay.
With the Lotus DNA, it just like filled every hole. It was perfect.
It's been a wild ride, pun intended.
Truly. Yeah. I don't know how much you know about Lotus, but the brand is 75 years old.
Yeah.
We competed in Formula One. This is a big week in celebration for Lotus.
Yep.
Because we've got several different anniversaries of one of our drivers, Jim Clark, who he won the Indy 500 60 years ago. So of
Incredible.
course, a lot of our American culture, of course, is around motorsports, and so
incredible.
We're whooping it up here in Miami F1.
Well, and that's such a good segue. Like, so much of that has had such an influence on American culture.
Totally.
As you know, I work in influencer marketing.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how that's lent itself to just culturally how this sport, F1, Lotus Automobiles, like the relevancy of that and the marriage of the two.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it here, especially in Miami. I mean, a good comparison is that, every Formula One race, there's 33 of them, they very much have their own DNA.
Yep.
And, I compare like Montreal Formula One to Miami Formula One. I dare you, go back to both races. The one is going to be flannels and coolers. And then here in Miami F1, Vegas is similar too, where there is a big focus on influencers, fashion, luxury. Vegas is very similar. And Formula One, especially I would say in the past 5 years, has put so much focus on integration with fashion alone or luxury lifestyle.
Yep.
I mean, take for example LVMH, which is now contracted as a lead sponsor of F1. So I share all of this because I know Lotus isn't competing in Formula One right now, but it is also very much a part of our brand strategy is to continue to focus on our legacy in motorsports, and then again aligning that with luxury lifestyle. So, which then takes you to influencers, because you know it more than me, is that we continue to see the growth in not just celebrities. In fact, I'm a big fan of the micro influencer.
Absolutely.
And when I say micro, I think of 100,000, 200, 500,000.
Right.
Followers.
Which is very, very different from how it used to be.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Kara, I was going to ask you, tell me a little bit about Lotus Automobiles, their marketing strategy, maybe a little bit about their previous efforts that they've had.
So we launched a new SUV. It's fully electric.
Incredible.
Holy cow. I kid you not.
And that's currently in market?
It is in market. Yep. You can go to a dealership today.
Amazing.
And purchase one.
So cool.
And what I love about it, it's called the Elettra. Also, all of our cars start with the letter E. So Elettra, Amira is another one that also you can go to a dealership and buy today.
Awesome.
We have a gorgeous hypercar that is actually in Miami as we speak.
Cool.
That's
amazing.
Called the Avaya. But with the Elettra, it has one of our partners is Dolby Atmos, and so it's got Dolby Atmos integration, which means the sound is
incredible,
unbelievable,
unmatched.
I kid you not, we've had musicians, famous musicians, call us up, and they're like, I've never heard sound like this before.
Well, let's get one of them to put their stamp of approval on a Lotus automobile.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that's the power of influence right there.
100%.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's also part of the, the strategy is aligning not just with the car, but the capabilities of the car as well. So
cool.
Yeah. Really important to us.
Love that. Mm-hmm. For those that don't know about Lotus, how is the brand raising brand awareness? Right? Like, I mean, is the focus just car aficionados or luxury car aficionados, or because it's something you've probably got an entire following it's more aspirational.
Yeah.
Right? Like right now it might not be attainable, but it's an aspirational purchase because the price point is much higher.
As a brand, you have to stay true to your DNA so that you don't lose your existing customer base.
Absolutely.
Right?
While still gaining, though, a new customer base.
Yep, exactly. Because I have a customer base, I kid you not, just even being on this retreat, my dad owned a Lotus, and that's what inspired me to buy a Lotus. So you have enthusiasts that they know the name, they know the brand. And then there's this other side where, yes, there's brand awareness. Mm-hmm. And this isn't just for Lotus. This is brands everywhere. But what I am seeing and what I'm excited about with Lotus is that I continue to see some of these older brands with the heritage. New Balance is a great example of really turning a brand around.
Yep.
And I believe it was because of their heritage that they were able to utilize that for their brand positioning.
Absolutely.
Right now. Because you even see, the style is focused more on
a younger demographic.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And but the power of influence too, right there. You get, who knows, Alex Earl, somebody else. All of a sudden they're wearing a pair of New Balance kicks, and they're the new craze that everyone wants to wear.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, that authenticity, I think, really reigns true. Now, you were talking a little bit about how the brand is obviously a UK-based brand, but talk to me a little bit about, I guess, its background and heritage when it really became an established brand in the United States.
That question in automotive can be tricky because dealerships have the ability to sell Lotus cars. I think a fair answer would be is that it really, within the last 10 years, we've started to create a dealer network that has sold Lotus cars. You also have to keep in mind that many of our dealers, their strategy is that they sell different luxury brand cars, and so they're not necessarily specific to just Lotus. I find that to be an advantage, big time, especially because our price point, not to all brands, but to some brands, for instance, compared to Ferrari, you walk in and customers are floored when they hear our price point, that they can go home with a Lotus Emira for 120 grand, 100 grand. And they're like, what? For that?
Right.
I mean, these cars are head turners. I'm not just saying this.
Yeah.
Right?
What's your favorite one? Do you have a favorite brand under the parent company? Favorite car.
Oh, favorite. Yeah. Okay, got it. I was like, I can't say a competitor name. What are you doing?
No.
I maybe just because I've had the most experience with it, but I love the Lotus Emira. It's going to be a 2-seat performance car.
Oh my God, so cool.
Even though I grew up in Detroit, so I grew up with automotive in my blood.
In your DNA,
But was never really a car person.
Sure.
I mean, people ask me all the time, were you a car person always? I was like, never, my dad, I was brought up on Barbra Streisand and musicals with my dad. He was not a car guy, you know? So I really started to fall in love with it, though, as my career grew, because it was very natural to work in automotive, being from Detroit. I know you're from the Midwest, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I wanted to get into a creative role in my career. I think I told you I'd worked for Jerry Springer, was one of my first jobs. And so the natural progression after Jerry Springer
was the automotive industry. There you go. That makes complete sense.
Right. It was like, what else could be this crazy? And it is I kid, like there are so many tentacles to automotive. You'll never be bored.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
You just will never be bored. So I wanted to stay in a creative field, and I knew that living in Detroit, I had to get into automotive, because if you want to work for any agency, advertising, if you want to be in loyalty programs, whatever it was, it all came back to automotive. So I got into automotive, and then truly that's where I started to not only love like automotive strategy, but then also car design in general. You know, I had met some of the car designers at Stellantis or Ben Payne with Lotus, and you're just like floored on how these people's minds work. And when I finally connected that, oh, these are artists. Like, these are the kids that like I hung out with in high school or college, right? Because I had this very intimidated feel behind designers that on how maybe their minds worked. And when I finally said like, no, they're people who draw. They're like the Bob Rosses of the world. Yeah. But, like there's nothing to be intimidated about. So I come back to Lotus Emira, the design of it, and the way that it runs, and like you drive a sexy car like that, and you're like, I feel like money.
That's awesome.
I get it.
Wrapping our conversation up a little bit, you've had such an impressive career. It's a really, truly impressive resume, and you have such amazing energy, and you're a magnetic person that people are just drawn to. Tell me a little bit about like maybe a favorite time in your career that's a core memory that you'll never forget. And whatever job position it was, but kind of like a little nugget or piece of advice or story that you can just share.
Too many. So first off, we've known each other for like 12 hours, and I feel mutual, right? And I have to say that's been really cool about Brand Innovators. I had a similar experience when I went on their Palm Springs retreat. And within 2 minutes, I meet this guy, Babs, and like, boom. People thought we came together.
Right.
And I was like, no, like we just
we're not
met.
family. Yeah.
Right. But that is, I'm not trying to be cheeky or whatever, but like Brand Innovators does that. It puts you in a comfortable setting.
Absolutely.
Everything is organic. And like, I'm certain that you and I are probably going to go to concerts together.
Yeah, I love it. You teach me about your favorite music, and I'll teach you about mine. And everything in between. Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know if this is my favorite, but I thought it was an interesting lesson, I guess. Okay. I had been working in Formula One under a different brand, and they do something at Formula One where guests can come. Now it's very select guests can come and ride with a performance driver. They call them hot laps, where you can drive around the track.
So fun.
Yes, it's really neat. And so I had really I had no reason to be there. I was out on the track just making sure everything was kind of going all right. And there's tons of different guests of ton of different brands. So you really don't know who you're going to meet. And I'm talking to this guy, and he's probably like in his young 20s or something. And I was like, oh, hey, are you having a great time? And he's like, oh, yeah. And I was like, oh, so what brings you here? And he's like, oh, my family like works for ESPN. And I'm like, oh,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And like, you're going to love this. And he's like, yeah, I'm a big car guy. And so that was it. And then later that day, he's walking by with another gentleman, an older gentleman than him. And my colleague, looks at me and he's like, oh, that's the CEO of Disney. And I was like, who's he with? He's like, oh, his son. I was like, oh, I just talked to that guy. I just met that guy.
That's amazing.
And it's one of those things that for me, it was like, just treat everyone the same.
Oh my gosh, I can't agree with that more. My career started at the Walt Disney Company.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, Disney College program?
Not the Disney College program, but I worked in their ad sales office in Chicago
Really?
for about 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
Digital advertising and then TV, Disney ABC Kids Network. So
We have more to talk about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was it Bob Iger?
It was Bob Iger.
Yeah.
Yes.
So cool. Great guy.
Yeah, and one of the, and I try to just always just remember that. And that's
Absolutely.
Something I continue to see in automotive is like, listen, I grew up from extremely humble beginnings, humble as you can get. You know, like it was. I always kid like, I had. My mom always bought me the jeans with the like elastic.
Oh yeah, the
around
adjustable.
waist.
Yeah, because absolutely. Like, you're gonna grow.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna keep buying you new pairs of jeans.
Yes. Had the same pair of K-Swiss for 9 years that my mom used a white paint roller to paint because it was just that. That's how I grew up. You know? And so I just always think with that mindset is like you don't know who people are, you don't know where they come from, and at the end of the day, it just really doesn't matter. Just treat people the same.
Yep.
And with automotive, you see it too, where you might see, a person who's just dressed to the nines, and then next to them is he's a guy with a 1980s, hot rod T-shirt on with a ketchup stain, and chances are that guy, his, bigger net worth than the other guy.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you just never know.
None of that matters at the end of the day.
You just gotta treat people with kindness.
Yeah.
And you do a very good job of it.
Thank you.
Kara, it was awesome talking to you. I know our conversations will not stop, but let's enjoy this beautiful Miami weather and this week, and I'm sure we'll see each other more at Brand Innovator events.
Yes, you're awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dee.
Great.